credit or money I have to go to Scotland, to go to anywhere I want to go, like literally just travel the world as much as possible before it's all done, before it's all gone.
That's a good answer. Wait, no, yeah, I would do that. Do that with my family.
You're like, forget my family. I'll just go. I'll go travel the world.
You're listening to Enhance, the podcast dedicated to highlighting real stories told by real people.
Hello, Enhance listeners. Thank you so much for tuning back in this week. I am your host, Sam, and today I'm joined by a very, very good friend of mine named Christian, or also CJ. CJ and I went to college together, and we were part of the same program. CJ has managed to create an amazing film career for herself, and so I'm super proud and super honored that she took the time to be on the podcast with me today. CJ, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm CJ. Super happy to be here. I am 26 years old. Just out here figuring out life, you know? Taking it day by day.
I feel like you're doing pretty good because, I mean, you literally just got a promotion on your most recent project. So you went from being a base camp PA. Is it okay if I say what else you're doing?
Yeah, of course.
So you just went from being a base camp PA to being a second AD. And for the non-film people out there, that is an assistant director. So that's, a second assistant AD, yeah. Film labels things really weird. Instead of having a third, they'll just have a second of something. So CJ has now gotten moved from a production assistant that ran like the base camp area to now being a second assistant director. So that's really exciting, and congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, to get us started today, I do have a little icebreaker question for us. Don't worry, this one's going to be a little bit easier than my past ones. I'm not going to read you. It's just going to be a little introspective question. So are you ready for it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I am.
So tell me, and I totally stole this question from my boss, so if she listens to this, this is all due to my boss, Parker. She's going to be on your episode, but this is one of her favorite questions to ask, and I had to bring it onto the podcast. So, CJ, if you knew that the world was going to end in 6 months, but you were the only person that knew, and you could not share it with anyone, what are some of the first things you would do?
Oh my gosh. If I knew the world was ending, I couldn't tell anyone.
Couldn't tell anybody.
I would definitely, a no-brainer. I would literally just spend all my time with my family.
That's so sweet. That's so pure.
They're like everything to me. So I think like getting all of that in with them.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do.
That's probably the correct answer. My answer is say fuck.
Rob a bank.
Yeah, well, no. My answer is say fuck credit card debt and spend any amount of credit or money I have to go to Scotland, to go to anywhere I want to go. Like literally just travel the world as much as possible before it's all done, before it's all gone.
That's a good answer. Wait, no, yeah, I would do that. Do that with my family.
You're like, forget my family. I'll just go. I'll go travel the world. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Okay, cool. Well, today to introduce our topic that CJ and I are going to be talking about, we are going to be chatting about toxic realism. Because, you know, it's been a struggle. We're both from Alabama. We both came from a very similar area. I'm from a small town called Clanton, like I told you guys before. And CJ's from Birmingham. So it's very close to each other, probably about 30, 45 minutes away from each other. Really, anytime you want to do anything in Clanton, you don't do it in Clanton. You go to either Birmingham or go to Prattville/Montgomery. So that's just because Clanton is so small. So whenever we both met at Spring Hill and found out we were from a very similar place, of course, that built a bond between us. And so we've also both been chasing our dreams when it comes to wanting to work in film. And I want to be a producer and writer. CJ wants to be a director and writer also, yeah? Yeah. Following those dreams have been especially difficult, and keeping a positive attitude has been especially difficult because we're the first people in our family that's doing something like this. Everyone else in my family is doing like a typical 9-to-5 or is, you know, retired now. And so I have a lot of family that work in the medical field. So I'm really the first one that's out here just like freelance looking for a job all the time, you know? And so I know you come from a similar background, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much everybody. Yeah, the exact same thing.
Yeah. And so with that, it's been very difficult to be positive. But some of the biggest changes that CJ and I have had to make in our lives to help us get to where we are is that we have had to rearrange and redefine what is realism to us, because we realize that the world that we've lived in has basically conditioned us to believe that pessimism is actually realism, and that everything needs a structured plan and a structured time, and that risk needs to be minimal. And when you live under those conditions and begin to believe that, that's actually a very pessimistic view. To go into life thinking, oh, it's going to be very hard and very difficult, it's kind of setting yourself up for failure, because sometimes things are out of your control and you can't plan for everything. So, CJ, do you want to get us started off and talk about, like, what has been your experience with deconstructing toxic realism and realizing that it's actually pessimism?
It was a lot. Like, when I decided to leave, like, my regular job, just because I got so much backlash from the people that were closest to me, like my parents. And I don't think it was coming from like a bad place, but for them it was just more like, now you're quitting something that's like really steady for you, and you're pretty much just like throwing yourself to the wolves, and like your life's gonna be like unsteady. It's like, are you even gonna be able to take care of yourself and things like that? And so like all of that like really got in my head, and it's like, they're kind of right. And it's like, what if I end up failing miserably? And like, what if they are right and I'm not able to take care of myself?
So I definitely identify a lot with that, because like I have one of my biggest role models in my family is my oldest sister, and she was a respiratory therapist for years. And she actually was during the time whenever I quit my full-time job and decided to go work in film freelance. She was the director of pulmonary care or something like that at one of the biggest hospitals in Mobile. And one of the things that she had always told me was like, you're trying to do something in an industry and in a field that doesn't exist where we live. She was like, you need to work a full-time job, save up money, and then move somewhere where that is. But the issue with that is that we live in a world that doesn't value employees. So getting a job that would let me pay for myself, let me pay for me living, let me pay for a place to live, let me pay for my food, for my water, for my lights, for my electricity, for my car, for me to get to work, from work, paying for gas, to find a job that would allow me to pay all of that, plus student loans, plus anything unexpected expenses. I've had a lot of medical issues, and so to pay for random medical issues on top of all of that and then save, near impossible fresh out of college. So at that rate, it would have taken me like 5 or 10 years before I ever had enough money saved up to go move somewhere where I could do what I wanted to do. Like you said, it was not from a bad place. Like, she was looking out for me. She's lived a lot longer than I have. We have a very large gap between us, and I'm not going to throw her out there like that. But, she was really looking out for me. But I just had to decide what was best for my soul. Like, what was going to feed my soul? What was going to help me move into the career that I had always wanted, And so that's whenever I know you and I both at the same time, it was so coincidental that like we hadn't even spoken about it, but at the same time we had quit our full-time jobs and then ended up working on the same exact movie in Mobile, and did not know that we were going to be on the movie together. And so that was a really cool experience, finding out that you and I have been going through like the same exact thing. And so now, my sister is very supportive. And so whenever I told her I was about to, leave town, go to North Carolina for a while and work, she like came and saw me and we visited, and like she has my like storage unit key, and like she's just very, very supportive. So I mean, like, by all means, she has been extremely supportive, as I'm sure your family has. But she was very like afraid for me in the beginning. And I've managed to stay fully employed for a year now, and now I'm applying for jobs at studios and things like that. So there's a lot of consistency that I have been able to find, but it was just difficult because the people around me didn't really see that. So it was a lot of learning how to tune that out. So what were some steps that you took to like try and tune that out, like to focus on what you want to do without being disrespectful to your family and without making it seem like what they thought didn't matter?
Yeah. So a lot of what helped me, like with the negativity, so I know you're not like super, like you're not religious, like not like that, but like with me, I just like put a lot of faith in God, and like trust that God didn't give me this vision for my life or this passion for no reason, and just trusting that this feels right for me. Like I'm doing the necessary steps like that I feel like are right for me, and I have to live that life for myself. I can't, go and live my life based off what I think that will make other people happy,
Absolutely.
And it felt right. Like when I quit my 9 to 5, like, it felt good. Like, I felt like I was doing the right thing. I didn't ever, like, second guess and was like, oh my gosh, like, did I make the right decision? Like, it just felt right.
Yeah.
So I think a good bit of it, outside of like having just like trusting God, I don't know. I just have to trust myself.
Yeah.
You just have to trust yourself in knowing that if it feels right, keep going down that path.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely. I think that, I mean, that's very, I mean, even if you're not religious, because like you said, I'm not very religious, I'm very spiritual. There is a certain point of like, maybe even not, even if it's not just like faith, just hope, like learning how to have hope.
yeah,
And that was something that I know you and I have talked about this before. And so I'm going to recant it here, because one of the biggest things that I realized was that whenever I looked at my life and I looked at the world through a quote unquote realistic lens, I was looking at things very pessimistically. I was looking at things like, well, if I try to quit my 9 to 5 and go follow my dreams right now, then I'm going to fail, or I'm going to have this unexpected expense, you know, and, or this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And there were just all these different things that ran through my mind where it's like, I'm not being realistic, I'm being pessimistic. You know, like, what if I quit my 9 to 5 and I go work on a movie and then it goes amazing and I continue to work on movies and I continue to succeed? What if I don't have unexpected expenses that come up? What if everything goes right, you know? And I realized that to think that everything would go wrong was just as much like daydreaming and having your head in the clouds and unrealistic as thinking that things would always go right. Something that you said, I do want to say this because even though I'm not really religious, this is a quote that I think about all the time. So, you know my friend Kiera, and Kiera is going to be on the show at some point later on. Both of us were going through a really difficult time at the same time. And it was during summer, and we were hanging out, and we went for a walk. And she said, you know, we were just talking about everything that we were going through. And she said, I don't believe that this is it for me. And she said, God did not create me to have this miserable of a life. And I was like, you know, like, you're damn right. You know, I was not put here to have a miserable life. Nobody was put here to have a miserable life, you know? And sadly, some people are having miserable lives under circumstances that are in no control to them. But I'm not one of those people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had a hard life. I have struggles. I have adversities. I have things that I have to get through. But I have it a lot better than some other people. And I'm allowed to sit here and, you know, I'm allowed to feel upset and to feel doubt and to feel like sometimes let down by the adversities that come into my path, but that shouldn't stop me from being positive and saying everything's going to work out in the end, you know?
right,
And
right.
there's another quote that I like, that it's everything works out in the end, and if it hasn't worked out yet, then it's not the end.
It's not the end.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's so true. You really have to, that would also be another thing, is shifting your perspective. Like, chill out on thinking the negative parts of everything. Like, I'm so good at that. Like, we just talked about it. Like, how I, you know, got a call for second AD, and immediately I'm like, oh my God, like, what if I fail? What if I can't do that? You know, like, instead of being like, there's a reason that this happened. This just didn't just, you know, come in my path for no reason. Also, God isn't going to put more on me than I can handle.
Yeah.
You know, like, think about all the things that this can teach me, all the things that I can learn from it. Like, what if it's not a complete disaster? Like, sometimes you can dismiss yourself.
Yeah.
Just like right off the bat, but you really do have to like change your mindset.
Yeah.
What if everything actually does work out?
Yeah.
You know? Half of the problem, like, sometimes we create problems in our head. Yeah. You know?
I think that also goes into with what you said, having faith in yourself. Like, I would not be getting this opportunity if I didn't work my ass off for it. You know, like, I would not be getting this opportunity if I wouldn't have shown someone that I'm a hard worker and that I'm a badass and I'm capable of learning and capable of doing, you know? And I think that's like, that really goes into that. I want to, I guess, get into like, how did we get here, you know? And I think I want to talk about what my breaking point was. And so I'm probably going to talk for a hot second. So at any point in time, you got something you want to say, jump in. It was like this time last year. Holy shit. Like, it's been a year since I like finally quit like my full-time job and started working in film full-time. I'd worked on a few movies before last year, but last year was like where I finally made that break and was like, no, I'm doing this full-time and this is going to be my career. I was down and out. I had so many health issues last year, and I've always had a lot of health issues. I mean, whenever I was a teenager in high school, I literally got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And then from there, like the medication I was on caused me to have a terrible like infection, and I lost part of my hearing, my thyroid got damaged, my liver got damaged, and like it's been like a constant road to recovery. I was diagnosed with an eating disorder that I finally have conquered. Now I can proudly say, like, now that I have a control over it, and I've done a lot of hard work to get there, and I finally am. But it's just been a very, very big struggle. I was also working in a job that made me miserable. It was just a toxic work environment where, I mean, the boss, honestly, I hate to like use this word because I don't want it to be like I'm a victim, but he was abusive. I mean, like, he would yell and scream and throw things and talk down to people and cuss and like threaten people, and it was just a terrible, terrible, terrible work environment that was not good for my mental health. And so I finally made this breaking point where I just had enough. I had enough with him. I had had enough with my health issues. I had had enough with the life I was living, and I was like, I'm never gonna get to where I want to be at this point. So fuck it. I'm done trying to like ease my way there. I'm about to do it. It was one day I was at work, and this boss, he had a habit of repeating the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, and then wanting me to explain why things weren't working. So like I was in charge of all of our Google ads, all of our Facebook ads, and I'd run them the way that they're meant to be run, and we'd have results. We'd start getting leads, we'd start getting views, we'd start getting likes and everything like within the first 24 hours, but it wouldn't be what he wanted to see. It wouldn't be the amount he wanted to see. So after a week of them running, he'd turn them off. But anyone that knows anything about Google ads or Facebook ads, you have to run them for months. Like, you have to run them for a long time because it takes time for any type of ad work AI system to learn what you're looking for. And so he would just turn them off after like a week or so. And then would get mad at me whenever things weren't working. I'm like, well, you went above, like, you're my boss. I was doing what you hired me to do because I was the marketing manager. And I was like, I was doing what you hired me to do. I was running your marketing, and then you came in and T-boned my job. And you turned off the ad because it wasn't performing the way you wanted it to, even though the way you're wanting it to perform is impossible for the amount of money you're putting into it. You want it to perform at your rate, you're going to have to put like thousands of dollars more into it. So anyways, so it was that constant merry-go-round. And so I come in one day and he had fired 2 people. Basically, a new employee had come in and kind of threw them under the bus, and it was a whole thing. And so he called me into his office and started wanting to like hound on me about things. And he always did this thing where he would threaten to fire you, and then you would cower down and get really small, and then like he would then have control over you. But this day I was tired of it, and I was done with it. And so he started yelling at me, and so I started yelling back. And he started cussing at me, so I started cussing back. And so then there was a point where he was like, do you want to be? And then he cut off, and I said, fired? I said, fire me. Go for it. Go ahead. I said, who else are you going to have that works here? Who else is here? I said, you have fired or ran off every other employee. Who else is going to be here? I said, fire me. Go ahead. I'm not scared. I was like, I'll find something else. I found you in a week after losing my last job. Fire me. And he was like, well, I don't want to fire you. I was like, well, you said fire, so I'm saying fire me. I'm calling your bluff. Do it. And he couldn't. And he was like, just take the day off. And I was like, okay. So I went home, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing it. I don't want to go back. I don't want to be there, And so that day I called a very good friend of mine over to my house, and I want to have a conversation with him. Now, you know him. I'm not going to say his name just for his privacy, but he is a very, very devout Catholic, and he went to school with us. He grew up Pentecostal, similar to me, but then he went through this like agnostic atheist phase, and then he ended up finding himself with a lot of the Catholic students at our school, and that was where he felt at home. And he felt very welcomed by them. And so now he's a theology teacher at a Catholic school. So, I mean, he's like doing really well for himself. He's really found his home there. But he is one of those people, same as you, that like whenever you ask him for advice, it's going to probably come from a religious background. But he's never one of those people that will push his religion on someone. And whatever he tells you is going to have fruit no matter what. I knew I wanted to talk to him. And where he was working at was really close to my house. And so he came by after school that day, and I just kind of ran him through everything. And I asked him, I was like, why do I have such bad luck? And I just went through everything that I had been through in the past like 6 or 7 years. And like, even like after, I mean, childhood was not easy for me either, being a closeted gay man or closeted gay kid in a very racist, conservative, homophobic hometown, in a very racist, conservative, homophobic family, going to a very racist, homophobic church, you know, like it was very like, I was in a box and I was being forced to act as someone that I wasn't. Through all of that, I was just like, where, at what point in my life did I go wrong? You know? And I internalized it and I made it about like, what did I do? Where have I went wrong? You know? And so I just asked him, I was like, why is this happening? I was like, when you look at your life and whenever things like this happen and you talk to God and you want to know why something is happening, what is the answer? What does he tell you? Where do you get the answer from? Like, what is it that is causing my life to be this terrible? And he didn't really have a surefire answer. He was like, this is the only thing I can think of. And he's like, and it's just a simple answer that like you hear all the time, but like you may be going through something right now that when you look back in the future, it's going to make perfect sense. And you're going to be so glad that it happened to you. I have another sister. And it's going to sound like I'm talking bad about her and shitting on her, but I promise I'm not. This is like such a positive thing in my eyes. She is one of the simplest people and one of the most, like, has one of the simplest lives. And she is one of the happiest people in the world. She has her husband, her daughter that lives with her, her like son lived with her for a while. Their parents, like she's adopted her husband's 2 kids and everything, like live such a simple life. And don't get me wrong, they go through hardships. They lost one of their sons like a few years ago, like right before COVID happened, like things, I mean, they've had adversity, but they have a beautiful home. They have a like beautiful life. They have like nice cars. She's been able to start her own business. She also like works for like the shop, and she just has such a simple life. She has a YouTube channel where she has like 3 followers, and it's just her singing karaoke at bars. And it's like, you know, and she's not bad, but she's not like a freaking Dolly Parton. You know what I'm saying? Like she's she's just happy, and she's so carefree. And I was telling him that, and I was like, why can't I be like that? Why do I have dreams that require me to work so hard? And why am I also in a position where I'm having to start at the very bottom? I was born in the middle of literally like a hick town, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Like where no film happens. And then I managed to move to a city where film happens somewhat, you know? Like, why can't I just be like her and just want a simple life? And so he was like, well, like, why do we do anything? Like, why do you think she does that? Why do you think she does YouTube? Like, you know, things like that. And I was like, well, I guess it fulfills her. I was like, but the things that fulfill me and my definition of success looks very different than her definition of success. Neither are invalid. Neither are wrong. But my scale of success requires me to succeed. It requires me to go be a producer and go be a writer and be on the path to doing that. And he's like, but why? You know? And he was like, and he started talking about what he wanted out of life. He's like, I could see myself going and becoming a priest. But then I would love the idea of that. And he was like, I would love, because, you know, he specifically, like, the college we went to was a Jesuit Catholic college, for anybody that doesn't know. And so Jesuits they're a very specific type of Catholic, where they are all about service to others and like feeding the mind, body, and soul all together. They're typically more liberal. So it's a really cool little part of Catholicism. But he was, you know, saying that he would love to go be a priest and join the Jesuits and go just like give his service to other people, like going to underprivileged areas and underprivileged countries and like building houses and like helping with storm relief. And because when they do it, it's never like a missionary type thing, because missionary things, it's like they're going with the intent to convert people to Christianity, where with like the Jesuits, they're going just to be good to people, you know. And so he's like, I could see myself doing that, but then also I could see myself having a family one day. And I can't have a family and also be a priest. And he was like, so if those are 2 things that I really want, but I can't have both of them, then what is it I'm trying to gain from them? You look like you got something. Do you want to jump in?
Because I'm in this place in life right now that I literally was just talking to like my family about. I have this passion for film. Literally, I don't want to do anything else but work in film. But then it's like, I also want a really big family one day. And it's just like hard, because it's so hard to work in film and then find a balance. Like it's really difficult.
Yeah. There is a point of balance, because of course I want a family one day too. And I also want to work in film. Yeah. So there's a point of balance. Once you get to a certain point, you can afford to like take time off or to like be remote, you know, but I think that with him, like, it was very specifically like, I can't be a priest. Like, religiously, he could not be a priest and also have a family.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what are those two things bringing you? Like, what is it that you're looking for in a family and also looking for in being a priest? You know? And he was like, well, I don't know. And I was like, well, are you doing it for yourself or for other people? And he was like, well, myself. And I was like, okay, so you're wanting to fulfill yourself. And he's like, well, no. He also is an amazing painter, like, phenomenal painter. And so he's like, well, I like to paint, and that's something that I don't really do for other people. Like, that's something I just do for myself. And I was like, so you would be okay if no one ever saw your paintings? And he was like, well, no, I want to share them with other people. And I said, okay, so then that's back to the thing of, like, what are these things doing? What is it that you're looking for in painting and having a family and being a priest? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I guess I'm looking to, like, be taken outside of myself. And I'm like, in search of what? You know, like, what is it that you're searching for that you can't find inside of you? And he was like, I don't know. And so then, of course, he and I are both dumbfounded. And we're both like, now we're both having existential crisis. But it did lead me to a really good point. Because after he left, I meditated on that. And I was like, what are we looking for? And so I really started reflecting, and I was like, what is it? Like, what in my life changed? Because I did have a tough childhood. I had a tough college experience, but things really went bad for me starting at the beginning of 2016. My dad had just passed away, and I was a freshman in college. I was like, okay, that's the point. That's where things really started getting negative for me. My mental health plummeted. My grades went to shit. I was like, then right after that, ended up in a very abusive, toxic relationship for a year. And then after that, ended up in a very abusive, toxic friendship for a year that you know full well about. And then my senior year was even more difficult. That's just a nice little summary of my college experience. You know what it was like. What started then? Like, what happened in that moment? What happened at the beginning of 2016 that, like, took me down this path of being negative and, like, having bad luck? And so I finally, like, after thinking about it, the only thing that I could find was that I stopped daydreaming. And I stopped imagining a future for myself and started planning a future for myself. And the issue is when you plan based off of what you have around you in that moment. When you daydream and when you imagine, you create things around you in that moment. You create opportunities, you create resources. But when you plan, you're only looking at what is immediately in front of you. And I was like, okay, so what did that do? What did moving from imagining and daydreaming and everything else into planning and structure and being realistic, quote unquote, what did that do to me? And I finally realized it zapped my hope. It took away all hope. When my dad died and I was then, like, suffering from having terrible grades, bad mental health, everything else, I plummeted into a place of no hope. Because it was like reality set in. The real world hit me in the face. I was also struggling financially at the time and thought I wasn't going to be able to finish my freshman year because my family didn't have the money to put up for my college. And I was working, but all my working went to my bills. You know, I had my own car that I had to pay for. I had my own phone bill. I had books. I had everything else. So I couldn't put that money toward my college tuition. And so all of that kicked me and made me realize, like, I have to plan. But when I started planning, I immediately just allowed daydreaming to go away. I let fantasizing go away. And with it went my hope. And I had basically used up all the rest of the hope I had stored up from childhood and college. And then when I got into adulthood, I had none left. And I only was operating off of I plan. And so when I realized that in that moment, that was a very pinnacle point for me where everything changed. And I started looking at my life instead of going, okay, well, I plan to do this and I plan to do that. I just took a step back and said, this really good thing could happen for me. And every single time I started to be negative, I cut off the negative thought and I said, but this really good thing for me could also happen. I quit my really toxic job and I'm unemployed and I don't have any work or anything like that, have no money, and I'm homeless. Or I quit my job and then a perfect opportunity lands in my lap that, like, carousels me toward my future, you know? And that, like, it's just that constant combating convinced me that good things could happen to me. And literally that next day, a friend of mine sent me an application to work on the movie that we both worked on.
Wow.
And I applied. And then not only did I apply, I got an interview. And then not only did I get an interview, but then I got a job. But not only did I get a job, I then got asked to be part of the LG PIC program, which is Lionsgate's PIC program for people that have not had access to film and the opportunities to film. And it's specifically looking for people that are minorities and wanting to diversify the film industry. And so since I was a gay man living in the South that didn't really have access to that stuff, I qualified. They were like, hey, we think you'd be a good candidate for this. And it has been phenomenal since, you know? And don't get me wrong, things have all still been hard. You know, like I'm dealing with some stuff right now that's been very difficult. My time in Charlotte's been very difficult. Like you and I lost a friend earlier this year. There's a lot of things that I have had to go through still, but my career has been so promising. And like now, I made the decision I was ready to move up. I was tired of doing entry-level jobs in film. I was a marketing manager before I started doing film, and then I went back down to entry-level. I was still making more money doing entry-level stuff in film than what I was doing marketing managing, but that's neither here nor there. But I decided that I was ready to move up, and so I immediately started applying for studio jobs because I felt like that would be the best place to go. I reached out to some of the executives at Lionsgate, and immediately one of them was like, I'm texting you right now. And let me know that there was a job that she knew that opened up, and she was like, no promises, you know, there's a full process, but send me your resume and I'll sing your praises. And I was like, this is amazing, you know, like, and it's just when you're ready to take chances like that and you believe that good things can happen for you. Good things can happen for you, but you have to believe it and allow them to.
Yeah, and it's so important too that you like speak things into existence. Like, I'm a person that fully believes like you can like speak things into fruition.
Yeah.
Like if you tell yourself like I'm gonna be successful, this is not gonna be a disaster, I'm gonna do great, like that can happen. Like the more that you speak things aloud, the more that you know you allow space for that to actually happen. So yeah, I think that's great that you did that, and now look at you. And even like it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. Like it's always going to be times that it's hard, but like that's really important that you continue to do that like throughout life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's been a struggle. Don't get me wrong. Like today.
Oh, it's always a struggle.
I will say like the past few weeks have been, it's been a trial. Like it has been so hard because like oh my gosh, you know, like I don't know if I want to let it all out here on the air right now, but I mean like today was just a very difficult day. I'm dealing with some family things where like certain people in my family that I thought learned certain lessons did not learn those lessons at all, and because of that I'm not a priority to them, and where I have prioritized that person in my family my entire life, even though they mistreated me due to my sexuality when I was younger, even though they've never really prioritized me whenever it came to my career, or prioritized me when it came to my education, or prioritized me in any facet, and always prioritized other family members that weren't as good to them. I've always been the one left at the very end. And it's probably because of the fact that I am gay, but it's also because I was the easiest child. And I was the easy one. I was the one that minded. I was the one who made grades. I was the one who basically got myself up and went to school. I was the one that was in church every Sunday. So because I was easy, there was not much attention that had to be put on me. And so that has now just left a string of events where it's like I'm not the priority, where I could use help. I could use the support. I could use someone to be there for me. I could use someone driving here, like, driving the hours to be up here with me when I go to doctor's appointments. But I don't have that. Today has been very hard. And so that's why tonight I knew I needed to take a walk before we recorded this, because I had to decompress and get the mindset. But really, the honest to God truth is that's also what it's about too, is like sometimes you have to allow yourself to be upset. And because you're never going to be able to find what it is that combats the negative feeling you're having if you don't fully have it and if you don't let it out. So like right now, my negative feeling, I'm not a priority to the people that I care about and the people I prioritize. The positive feeling to combat that, okay, that's fine. I'll prioritize myself now. Like the positive feeling, okay, cool. I'll prioritize myself and I'll do a better job than what they ever could. Okay, I'll prioritize myself and I'll get myself the connections and the opportunities that they never could. okay, I'll prioritize myself and I'll take risks and good things will happen for me. You know, like, and it's just that, like, okay, I'm allowed to be upset right now, and I'm allowed to feel hurt that I wasn't a priority to someone that I should have been a priority to, but that's okay because I can do it myself.
Yes, I just had a similar thing happen to me the week before the last week of filming on this last show that I was on. And for the longest, like the whole, first off, it was just it was an incredibly difficult project. Like, it was just hard all around. And the whole time, even though I was super stressed, I was just like, it's fine. Like, everything's going to be good. Like, even the people around me were like, how are you always like so positive and happy? Like, I should probably be like that, but like, how are you like this? And so, like, long story short, a lot of bad things happened. And then it was just like, everything came like crashing down on me. And it's like, I just kind of like had a breaking point that I was like, you know what, forget being happy. Like, I don't want to feel happy. Like, I'm just angry. And so I just let myself feel that. I remember, it's so funny. I remember like walking back in our AV trailer and I had like a mini temper tantrum. Like, I remember having a pen in my hand. I just threw my pen and I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, why is this happening? Like, why is all this going on? And then I had a little temper tantrum for a little bit, but that's okay because I let myself feel everything that was coming to me. And I remember afterwards feeling so much better and being like, wow, I needed that. Like, I needed to like release that because it had just built up and accumulated for so long. But I do that so much in life. Like, sometimes I'll just like brush off everything, like any kind of negative feeling, I'll try to brush it off instead of just dealing with it.
Yeah.
And then it ends up coming and biting me in the ass in the end. And then it hurts 10 times more because I didn't take the time to feel what I should have felt the first time. Mm-hmm. But also, you learn so much when you deal with those things. It's kind of like you just, I don't know. You have to allow yourself to feel. Yeah. You really do.
Absolutely. I remember whenever you and I grabbed dinner when you very first got to Charlotte, because guys, CJ and I, our lives have like always lined up. It's so weird. We both decided to quit our 9-to-5 jobs at the same time and go work on the same movie without knowing either of us were going to be on it. And then right after I got the job in Charlotte, North Carolina, she texted me and was like, so guess what? I have a job in Charlotte, North Carolina. Wasn't on the same movie, but it was just it's so random. Like, Charlotte, North Carolina.
City, that's crazy.
Yeah, like we both had just I had just moved back up to Clanton to be with my mom and put my things there with her so I could travel. And you also were just back in Birmingham with your family, and then we both got a job. It's just so strange. So strange. Yeah. But I remember whenever you very first got here to Charlotte and we grabbed dinner, that was one of the things we talked about, was that because I was in a really good place at that time where I had dealt with a lot of my mental health issues. I had finally conquered like my eating disorder, and I was like, had been a month without like having a binge episode, and like I was feeling good. I had been losing weight, but in a healthy way. And I remember that I was like on top of the world. And then whenever I talked to you, that was the first time I had ever seen you down. And it was the first time I had ever seen you like feeling bad about yourself. And you were like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be dumping. And I was like, CJ, I have dumped on you so many times before. Just because I'm let me be the positive one now. Let me be the one to hear, to listen. And I was like, what do you need? Do you need me to be positive for you? Do you need me just to listen? Do you need me to do you need me to be pessimistic with it? Like, what do you need right now? And you were like, I don't know. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you that if you're feeling this way, feel it. Because you're typically a very positive person. And you typically try to stay very upbeat and everything. And chances are you need this time to be upset. Because I know that we had talked a little bit about, and I hope this is okay for me to bring up, but where you were questioning, your career path and everything. And you were questioning, is this what I want to do with my life? And I was like, CJ, I know you know this is what you want to do with your life. You're just dealing with a lot right now. It's hard. It is hard out here. Whenever you're chasing your dreams, no matter what field it is, there's a lot of challenges, especially when you're starting from the groundwork up. When you're coming from a place where you don't know anybody in film, where you don't have family that got you into it. You're not in New York or LA where you can easily get a producer's assistant or director's assistant job and they can make the connections for you as you go and you can learn. It's not easy to do here. And so when you're starting from the ground up like that, like it's really hard. And so, like I was when I told you, like feel your feelings, be upset, and like try these things, because whenever you feel your feelings and when you're upset and then you try new things, you find out what you don't want to do, you know? And now look at you, you're moving up. You got a promotion, like, and it's like it's all about like just feeling your feelings, so that you can be positive. You have to know what's there so you can combat it with positivity.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's so much like strength in acknowledging things that aren't so great either.
Absolutely. One thing that my therapist said, because whenever I had this experience happen where I was talking to my friend, I just wanted to ask her, I was like, I'm very spiritual, so I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. I believe in the law of attraction. I believe in manifestation. I believe in like all these different things. I believe in like just all kinds of stuff. We've talked about it before. So, but whenever I go to therapy, something that's really important to me is to leave that at the door, because when I'm in therapy, I'm there 100% for my mental health, So just like whenever I go to the doctor, I'm 100% there for my physical health. Like I always leave my spirituality at the door, but this was the one day that the moment the therapy session started, I told my therapist, I was like, hey, I'm about to bring in my spirituality because this shit looks like magic and I need you to give me a logical explanation for it because my human brain is not understanding it. And so I told her, I was like, I immediately changed my outlook and I immediately shifted the way I was thinking and started forcing positivity into my brain. And like you said, speaking it into existence, that's so important, because when you hear things and you hear it enough, you start to believe it. Like, like if you constantly look in the mirror every single day and you say, I am beautiful, I'm a beautiful human being and my body is perfect the way it is. Every day that you do that, you will begin to believe it a little bit more, And so that was honestly one thing that I was doing. Anytime I had a negative thought about myself and I felt bad about how I looked, and because I'm, curvier and have more rolls and everything than what I did whenever I was in high school, like when I feel that way, I immediately was like, I'm beautiful the way I am. My body is perfect. I am beautiful. I am sexy. I am magnetic. I am charismatic, and like just started like throwing these things at me, and it boosted the way I felt about myself. And whenever I felt better, people noticed. Guys guys that had never noticed me before were noticing me. Like, what I'm saying? Because I felt good about myself. And they saw that, and that's attractive, And so I talked to my therapist and I was like, how is this working? Like, please explain to me, because right now it looks like magic. I was like, I told myself that things could work out for me and that I could end up being able to follow my dreams. And the next day, a job opportunity to work on a film fell in my lap. I got nervous and was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get it. And I was like, hold up now. I could get it. And not only did I get it, but I got accepted into the LG PIC program, or invited to like be part of it. So like, and I was like, it looks like magic. Explain to me realistically how this works. And she was like, I can't. And she was like, but what I can do is tell you this. So she said that there was a study that was done on the brain and just like looking at how our bodies and our minds respond to memories. And so basically this whole thing was about like, think of a moment when you felt really happy. Think of a moment when you felt really sad. Think of the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to you in your life. And they wanted to see which part of the brain and nervous system was stimulated and which ones lit up with like electrical activity because of your memory. And so basically they found out that memory is like drawn to one place, or like comes from one place, and it can impact other parts of the body and things like that, and other parts of the nervous system due to how we correlate like anxiety and emotions and things like that with different feelings in our body. But all of them kind of were in one spot. And so what they told people to do was they said, think of a memory that was the happiest memory that you've ever had. Think of something that just like when you think of that, there's such euphoria, there's such nostalgia, like you would go back and live in that moment if you could. And so they did, and that part of the brain lit up. Lit up like fireworks. And so they said, okay, now stop. And they said, now imagine something that you've always wanted to do, and imagine something that would make you so happy, a goal you've always wanted to achieve, a place you've always wanted to visit, someone you've always wanted to be with. Imagine yourself having that and enjoying it in the moment. And the same exact part of the brain lit up. And that told them, Your brain does not know the difference between a memory and something you imagine. So when you imagine something, to your brain, it's already happened. And so when she explained that to me, she was like, I can't tell you how these things just magically appeared into your life whenever you changed your mentality. She was like, but I can tell you that your brain was convinced it already happened before it did. And she was like, I also can tell you that when you believe things like that can happen, so when you imagine that things like that can happen for you and your brain accepts that as a memory and doesn't know the difference and is like, okay, this has already happened for me, you then become a little, like, she didn't word it this way, but I am, you become braver, you become more courageous, you become more confident, and you actually believe these things can happen because your brain believes they already have. And so then you're willing to take risks. And when you're confident and you take risks, your risks usually pay off. She was like, the more risks you take, the more reward you get. She's like, you may risk something and fail once, but say that you took 5 risks back to back to back and you won 4 times, that's positivity to your brain. The one failure is not really going to matter that much.
And also, like, even that one failure, the amount of lessons that you learn from that one failure. So it's not even really a failure because you've learned so much, and then you can take that on to, you know, the next thing. So yeah. Wow, that is so good.
And I love that you said that, like, that you brought that up, because something that I have always said, and I realize now that when I said it, I didn't fully believe it or grasp what it meant to say this, but I've always said that failure isn't the end of success. Failure is the process to success. And if you think about that, like, how many times do we try and try and try for something and fail and fail and fail again? But the time that we're ready to give up is when we get it. And then once we get it, we completely forgot that we failed all those times because it was so worth it. Like, it was so worth getting that success in the end. You know, like, we would do it all over again, you know? And that's like right now, being in Charlotte, like, a lot of bad shit has happened since I've been here, but I would do it all again. Because this experience has been so good for me. It has helped me so much with my mental health. It's helped me release negative relationships I needed to release a long time ago. It's helped me with my, like, eating disorder. It's helped me with me just knowing myself, getting alone with myself and being able to process things. It's helped me learn how to accept help. I mean, there's so many good things that have come from me being up here that I would do it all again. I would repeat it. Even though all the bad shit happened.
The amount that, like, everything that I went through in Charlotte helped me realize the strength that I do have. And the amount that I'm capable of doing, which is something I was not able to see before. And it's like after that movie wraps, I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I am more than capable of everything that I want to achieve. Every tool, instrument, it's already inside of me. Like, I can do 1,000% what I want to, you know?
Absolutely.
I definitely can do it, you know?
Absolutely.
But it took you know, those low points and not so fun days for me to get to that point. So it's all a part of the growth.
Yeah.
It's all a part of the process.
So I guess in closing, to summarize and everything, I mean, the main point of it all is that if you are living in a negative state of mind and you're telling yourself that it's realism, you're wrong. And you're never going to get where you want to be if you're constantly forcing yourself to be in a pessimistic realism, like, point of view. And realism is not saying, oh, well, bad things happen, this happens, I have to be prepared, blah, 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 blah. That's not realism. And that's what our society tells us that it is realistic, but it's not. Realism is understanding that we live in an unpredictable world where good things and bad things can both happen to you. And you should just be prepared and ready to adapt. That is realism. Yep. And I love being optimistic. And I wish I could be internally a lot more optimistic than what I am. I'm very externally optimistic, where I'm always like, it's going to work out in the end, everything's going to be fine. But in moments, I find myself running in circles in my head where I'm like, oh, this bad thing could happen, this bad thing could happen, this bad thing could happen. And I'm trying to basically plan everything. Because, you know, I'm a planner. Yeah. I'm a chronic planner, CJ. You know this. And so, and it's a little bit of a control issue thing. And so I find myself running in circles, trapping myself in my mind, trying to think of like, oh, this, like, be prepared for the negative things. And then I expel positivity where I'm like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to work out. It's all good. And I wish that I could equal it out and be more positive on the inside, but I can say that I'm at least a lot more realistic than what I used to be. And I thought that I was very realistic then. Like, I thought that I was being structured and planning and things like that. But that's not the case. We live in an unpredictable world. And sometimes you have to take a risk in order to get where you want to be. And it's scary.
Absolutely.
It's terrifying. You don't know what's going to happen, but always believe that something good can happen. Accept where you're at. That's something I had to start telling myself whenever I start having negative thoughts, is that I accept where I'm at. I accept the reality that I'm in, and I accept that that negative thing I'm thinking of is a possibility of something that can happen. But I'm going to have faith, and I'm going to trust that something just as good could happen too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Started building my hope back. And I fantasized. I allow myself to daydream. That's something too, is
yes,
like...
Yes, I do too.
Yeah, like I literally...
This is so weird, Sam, but like before I go to sleep, like every night, because I used to have trouble sleeping. I don't know why. But at the end of every night, like I daydream and I like create the world that like I want my future to look like.
Yes.
And like every single night. And I'm hoping and I'm believing that that's going to happen for me. No matter if it takes 30 years or 40 or, however long it takes.
Yeah.
But I believe that those things will eventually come into fruition. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's probably weird that I do that. I'm probably the only one on earth that does that.
That's literally what, yeah, that's what started, that's what made it so easy for me to believe that positive things could happen. Because when you do that, it builds hope. And you know what? You can sit here and you can like, because some people, why they don't want to daydream is like, they're like, I don't want to get my hopes up about that specific situation. Get your hopes up about it. Get your hopes up about it. Because what happens, here we go. Say that there's this guy that I really like. Say that there's a man, I'm like, oh, that's the one for me, and I want him, right? And I daydream about it, and I fantasize about it, and I'm like, this is the man for me. I want him, and I build up all this hope, right? And then I find out he's straight. Guess what happens? That hope doesn't just disappear. That hope sits there. But if you don't use it, then it disappears. So whenever you've built up all that hope, and you just got let down because the dude you really wanted ended up being straight, which has happened to me thousands of times. Let's just put that out there. But when that happens, you can take that hope and distribute it to other places. You can go, that's okay, because I just spent all this time fantasizing and hoping about this, and now I can shift all that focus to this one thing over here that's a lot more likely. And just building hope for yourself is so important, and being able to not only just build hope about specific situations where that hope rides on that situation, but building hope that is dynamic, that is adaptable, that you can change to whatever you want.
This helps me a lot of ways that you probably didn't think you would help me with today. But
I'm so glad.
Like I said, I was literally freaking out. I have been freaking out over the past week about my next upcoming job, just because it's something so drastically different. Well, not drastically different, but it's a lot different than it's something I've never done before. Yeah. And sometimes that scares me.
Oh, it's rightfully so. It is terrifying.
And the whole week, Sam, the entire week, I have been filling my head up with, what if I fail? What if it's just a disaster? But this whole conversation has taught me, what if it's not? Yeah. Change your perspective. Shift it. You have to. Yeah. Just believe that good things are going to happen, and know that you deserve good things to happen to you.
Absolutely. Yes, we are all worthy. This was something that I literally just texted my friend about today. And I have a friend that she has had a very beautiful, self-love, body positivity journey, where she, throughout college and throughout high school and things like that, she counted calories. She stayed very skinny, very fit, really exercise depending on how many calories she had intaken in a day. And one day she got upset because she wasn't where she wanted to be or something like that. And she finally just realized, she was like, why am I basing my self-worth off of the number on the scale and the number of calories I have taken in? She immediately shifted then and was like, I'm going to exercise to feel good. I'm not going to exercise to worry about how I'm looking and how skinny I am or anything like that. I'm just going to exercise to feel good. And so she started doing that. And she was like, I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to make sure I eat balanced, but I'm going to eat what I want to eat. And naturally, she gained weight because when you're not on a birdseed diet and forcing yourself is forcing your body to expel everything that it needs to use for nutrients, you gain weight, but you look like a normal human being. You don't look like someone photoshopped on the front of a magazine. And she loves herself, and she didn't care. And she allowed herself to learn to feel self-worth outside of it. And she didn't, like, whenever I say she gained weight, she is not obese. She is not overweight. She gained a healthy amount of weight that our society tells us is overweight, when it's not. It's not overweight. She is not, like, she's still got a good body figure and everything else, and she has a loving boyfriend that loves her, everything about her, that love, you know what I'm saying, like, they exercise together, they, you know what I'm saying, they're both the same mentality, their bodies fluctuate because bodies do that, you know, and they have built such a beautiful self-love journey. And years ago, when I very first started hanging out with them, they were honestly becoming close to them was a very, like, pinnacle point in me cutting out toxic people in my life, because I was around them and hanging out with both of them at the same time. I never felt like a third wheel. I never felt like I didn't belong, and it was them that I was friends with them in a couple. It was like, no, whenever we hung out, they were both there individually hanging out with me and giving me their attention and time while also being a couple. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like they were just so healthy. And it wasn't that they were perfect. They had problems. They had issues. They were both in therapy. They both had pasts, but they recognized those pasts and had grown and had, you know, it was just such amazing people. Like, whenever I imagine my, like, perfect relationship, I imagine something like that. But the whole point of this is that when we've ever started hanging out, I was struggling a lot with my body image, because I was struggling with my weight really bad, because not only do I have an eating disorder, but whenever I had my autoimmune disease and everything, because it's inactive now, but whenever I had that bad infection that affected my liver and my thyroid, it made it very difficult for me to lose weight. I mean, just extremely difficult, because then some of the long-lasting effects of the medication too is that you have really bad muscle spasms. So I have muscle spasms in my back that causes back pain and makes it, you know, hurt whenever I try to exercise, and even whenever I sit certain ways, and it's a whole thing. And so I've learned to manage it now at this point in my life. But then I had it, and I was struggling so bad with my mental health and with my body image and everything else. And I said, well, you know, I think sometimes, and I'm like, well, at least I'm not 600 pounds. And my friend turned around and said immediately, she, like, took a deep breath, and she looked very frustrated, but she, like, brought it in and made sure she didn't take it out on me. And she said, even if you were 600 pounds, that would not take away from your worth. Just because your numbers go up on a scale does not mean that those numbers are taken away from the amount of worth you have as a human being. If you were 600 pounds, you would still be worthy of living. You would still be worthy of having respect. You would still be worthy of being loved. You would still be worthy of all these different things that you're worthy of right now. That you're worthy of, and that a model that is super skinny on the cover of a magazine is also worthy of. You'd be worthy no matter what. And when she said that, that, like, hit me in my heart. That hit my core. You know what I'm saying? And so now that I'm in a place where my, like, eating disorder is manageable, and I'm doing really well, and I've been able to intermittent fast, which is something I've never been able to do before in my life, because binging was such a problem, and then also my metabolism has always been shot, so nothing ever really worked. Now I've been intermittent fasting, and I've lost a lot of weight. You literally, when we got on FaceTime earlier, you were like, oh my God, Sam, you look amazing. And so the thing is, though, that, like, your body goes through natural plateaus and things like that. And so today, I was just, over the weekend, because I was giving myself a break on the weekend. So on Saturdays and Sundays, I let myself have, like, a break, and I would eat whatever I wanted to. And sometimes I would have a little tiny, like, binge session, but I was able to stop it and be like, all right, you know, that's enough. Like, you've had what you need, you know. But because I would give myself that 2-day break, every Monday I would start off super bloated, not feeling good, like, super, like, lack of energy. And it wasn't because I ate anything terrible or ate, like, a copious amount. It's just that I was eating more than what I had been during the week for 2 days. And that just, like, threw off my metabolism and threw off my digestive system. And so I immediately started looking for ways to recommend it, and basically what I landed on is that now I'm intermittent fasting on Sunday too, so I can only eat between certain hours, but it's longer hours that I have to eat than what I give myself during the week, Monday through Friday. And so Saturday is my only, like, free day where I can do whatever, you know. And so with that, though, one of the things that went through my head was, like, And because with the bloatedness, there was also a plateau that I would hit too, where like I wasn't really losing as much weight as what I wanted to, like I was at the beginning of it. And so one of the first thoughts I had was like, well, maybe what if I just fast all day on Sunday? Like I have a free day on Saturday and then I fast all day on Sunday. And then immediately I heard her voice in my head reminding me it does not matter if you're not losing weight as fast as what you want to. It does not matter if you are hitting a plateau. It does not matter what your body looks like, what your body is shaped like, whatever. You are still worthy. You still have worth. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of feeling confident. You're worthy of loving the body that you're in. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Absolutely. 100%. And so I was like, nope, I'm not going to starve myself just because of the fact that I'm not losing weight as fast as I want to. So I found a healthy solution, so I extended my hours for the intermittent fasting, but I still put an intermittent fast on that Sunday to give myself that day, like that in-between day, to get back into a swing where I'm not feeling bloated throughout the week. And it worked, And I texted her today and I was like, I want you to know that has been such a crucial part of my whole journey. And the whole point of that was to bring it back to what you said, like, you are worthy of good things happening to you. It does not matter what your past is. It doesn't matter the kind of person you've been. It doesn't matter the mistakes you've made. It doesn't matter the things that you've failed at. If you are trying your best now, you're trying to be a good person, trying to chase that goal, trying to chase that dream, whatever it is, you're worthy of good things happening to you. So yeah, well, thank you guys so much for tuning back in to Enhance. This was honestly an amazing episode. Such a great conversation, and I also needed it because, like I said, today was definitely hard, so I needed a reminder of some of these things. And I'm going to try daydreaming, or night dreaming, I guess, about my perfect life tonight whenever I lay down and go to bed. Because a lot of times I'll meditate for like an hour or so before bed. So tonight when I meditate, I'm gonna really focus on that and try and like bring that energy into my mind and see if it builds some positivity.
Let me know what you think.
I absolutely will.
We know how it goes.
CJ, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. I feel like I talked a lot, but you and I always have such
Sam,
good conversations.
You helped me so much.
I'm so glad.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, guys, if you want to find me on social media, I am SAMMED if you do. That's Sammed if you do. I'm that on TikTok. I'm that on Instagram. I'm that on Twitter. And if you want to find the podcast, you can find it at Enhance on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Anchor, and you can find it at Enhance Podcast on YouTube. And if you find me on social media, I also have the links all in my bio and my link tree. So feel free to do that. Slide into my DMs. Tell me what you think. Tell me what topics you would like for the podcast to cover. And just give some feedback. CJ, do you have anything you want to promote and put out there?
No. I mean, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Christian Nicole J. Follow your girl. I'll follow you back.
Yeah.
Let's be friends.
Awesome. Yeah. Also, like if you find me too, I follow CJ, so you can find her easily through there too. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much again for tuning back in. This was Enhance, and we hope to see you next week. We have new episodes every Saturday and bonus episodes the third Wednesday of every month.
Enhance your peace,
your joy,
and your existence.